So DC's collected editions department has been absolutely killing it lately, and by it I mean my wallet. There's been so many great omnibuses, compendiums, oversized hardcovers. It's just been incredible. I'm going to be buying my first Absolute edition this year, and there's going to be 5 of them coming out this year I want. So it's kind of nuts, but there are some gaps. As always, there's a huge library of DC Comics over their near 90-year history, and I'm going to talk about 10 books that I think need to be an omnibus.
It's morphin' time!
Hello, this is Soundout here, and today we're talking about my 10 picks of 10 DC Comics that I believe need to be in an omnibus format. Also, compendium, deluxe edition, some kind of larger format of collection to get everything together. This is my 10 personal picks, and these are 10 books that I really wanted to highlight and spotlight. Warlord's obviously not one of them. I'm just using an example of, here's a book that was on my list for a long time, and I finally got it, and I can't wait for Volume 2. But there is a bunch of DC books that I feel should be at least in some kind of new format. So because of this, I did put some rules and restrictions on myself. I decided, of course, obviously, if it's already an omnibus format, it's not on the list. Second of all, if it's already had a nice compendium that I would be happy with, like some of the stuff like Batman Beyond or Milestone, I'm pretty happy with those. You know, it would be nice to get an oversized format, but I don't find it as a necessity. And then I also made sure that, you know, if it's something that has had a modern reprint, I included one that has had a modern reprint. A couple, there's a couple that have had reprints, but I want something better. And so I'm trying to sort the list. And so the list is going to be like 10 to 1. Not that like 10 is like my least favorite book on the list, but more so like number 1 is the one that really needs it. Whereas number 10 is like, it would be really nice if they did, but if they don't, I totally understand. And so you kind of see what I mean as we go along. But I will be calling this, 10 books that need to be in omnibus format, or just DC books in general, because YouTube doesn't like numbers and titles anymore. So we're going to go over my whole list here, and if you enjoy this, be sure to hit the like button, hit subscribe to the notification bell, hit the hype button if it's available to you, and leave a comment down below and tell me what your picks are for books that need an omnibus edition, or see if you agree or disagree with my choices. Let's take a look. We're going to start from the bottom of the stack with number 10. Number 10 is Aztek the Ultimate Man. Why is it number 10? Because I would love to have like a deluxe edition / an omnibus of my favorite 90s forgotten superhero of DC. That being said, it's Aztek the Ultimate Man. It's not like he's going to be getting it. I never foresee a future where there is a deluxe format for Aztek, because nobody knows who this guy is. It's funny because I feel like I sort of manifested his McFarlane Toys figure, because I was reading JLA in the thick trades, and I was like, oh, Aztek's joined the team. I should go reread Aztek because I love this comic. Went and reread it, and then literally the day after I finished reading Aztek for like the 3rd or 4th time at this point, the McFarlane figure got found in a Walmart. And I have one on the way to me. So it's very exciting for Aztek fans. There's not many of us. I don't know anybody else that even knows the character besides myself, so shout out Aztek fans in the comments. But the reason I want this recollected is because I want there to be more Aztek fans. That's basically my whole reason, because there was this nice trade paperback collection of his solo book here, which is all 10 issues of Aztek the Ultimate Man. He is one of the weirdest little characters. I mean, it's a Grant Morrison, Mark Millar collaboration, so you gotta imagine it's not going to be strange. But he's advertised as the hero for the new millennium, because it was 1996 and everybody was ready for 2000. He's got a shape-changing suit that can morph into different forms and do what he needs to do. He's got all kinds of crazy villains, and there's a lot of great like commentary on superheroes and the way that superheroes go through corporate media. And then there's also like just some other characters that are just nuts, and then it turns out he's like, he was created by a secret organization. He goes up against the Joker. It's a fun book. It really is. There's like a lot of craziness in it, and it's also, the sad part is being only 10 issues. It's very undercooked. I wish this was like 20, 30 issues long, but yeah, it's only 10. Now here's the thing. Aztek's story does continue in the pages of JLA. There's several story arcs that are important to the character, and so if they were to make a deluxe edition or omnibus of Aztek, I would say they should include the JLA issues as well. So that way you kind of get a full reading experience for the Ultimate Man. I'm going to stop yapping about Aztek because I know that most people out there don't care, but this is my obscure pick of the bunch because it would be really cool to see a new edition of Aztek. An Absolute Edition, maybe? All right, number 9 is Birds of Prey, the stuff Gail Simone didn't write. Because we are getting Birds of Prey Omnis. We had the first one for Gail Simone. We're getting a second one. But there was stuff after Gail Simone with Sean McKeever, Tony Bedard. And then there was also the stuff before Gail Simone, which was like Chuck Dixon and Gary Frank stuff. So the thing is, we've gotten 3 trade paperbacks of the beginning of the Birds of Prey series, which cut off, and then we jumps to these new trade paperbacks which weren't numbered but were just kind of like titled and then released out of order, like almost Epic Collection style. And this one got us all the way through all the Gail Simone issues to the end of that series. And so the thing is that there's a gap of like 20 issues. So I really think Birds of Prey deserves more Omnis beyond the Gail Simone run, because I think the Gail Simone run is great. I love it. But I would like to see the rest of the series. The original run was 127 issues. And I can totally see it as 1 to 2 Omnis for the stuff before Simone, and then 1 Omni for the stuff after Simone. And that would be it. We'd have that whole series covered. You could do a New 52 Birds of Prey Omnibus, a Batgirl in the Birds of Prey Omnibus, and then one with the Kelly Thompson run. I just want more Birds of Prey. The reason it's so low on the list, though, is just because I do almost feel like because the Gail Simone Omnis are selling well enough, I think at least the Sean McKeever, Tony Bedard stuff will probably make it out. It'd be nice to get the whole series, and maybe the sales will support it, and then we actually see it. This feels like a possibility, is the only reason it's down lower, because I feel like it's inevitable, so I don't feel like I need to wish for it as hard. Number 8, Green Lantern Kyle Rayner. Now this one's also low because there is a compendium for Kyle Rayner, there's just not a compendium 2. So Kyle Rayner is the Green Lantern of the 90s. He's my Green Lantern. He's the one I knew before the Justice League cartoon introduced John Stewart. Kyle Rayner was the Green Lantern I knew from all the media tie-ins and stuff. And I like Kyle a lot. You know, Kyle Rayner fans and Hal Jordan fans are always kind of at odds. You know, lovingly at odds. It's a rivalry, not like a, hate fest. So I'm always on the Kyle Rayner side of things. And so, of course, I have these 2 collections of the Ron Mars Kyle Rayner series, which is great. It's like Volume 1, Volume 2, gets us, from Green Lantern 48 to 65. Then there was one trade called Ring of Fire that takes place a little bit later, and that's it. Where's all the Kyle Rayner? Because the thing is that they compiled these 2 trade paperbacks into the Kyle Rayner Compendium. And I thought, all right, well, then maybe they'll do a Kyle Rayner Compendium too. Ron Mars is also curious about this because that Kyle Rayner Compendium has gone back to print a couple times and apparently sold well because he said his residual checks were pretty good. So I'm just kind of wondering, hey, DC, where's Kyle Rayner beyond issue 65? So is it a Kyle Rayner Omnibus is what we need, which would be collecting this material like a 3rd time and then adding beyond that? Or do we something? I don't know. This one's weird. That's why I kind of put it lower on the list, because it seems like they only want to reprint this first chunk of Kyle's run and not anything after leading up to like Green Lantern Rebirth. That could make a great, like, I think 2, maybe 3 Omnis, but here we are with just the same material recollected again and again. So, I don't know. I just want more. Number 7, Green Lanterns. This is one of my favorite Rebirth titles, and it's one of my favorite Green Lantern books because it does shake up the Green Lantern formula a bit. The series kind of starts off as like a buddy cop series with Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz, but as the series continues, they become really great friends. They start connecting, they start learning from each other, and I thought it was really cool to take 2 rookie Green Lanterns, pair them together, put them on Earth, and have them kind of figure out the Earthbound Green Lantern stuff while you had the Hal Jordan the Green Lantern Corps comic, which was all the space stuff and all the big explosion adventures. It was kind of like your more down-to-earth sort of weekly adventure book. And I really like it. And I hope that more people could get a chance to read this because it hasn't been in print since the original trade paperbacks. And from what I can tell, you probably could be able to put the entire thing in one omnibus, so I think it's a perfect fit for the format. And since we're getting a Hal Jordan the Green Lantern Corps omnibus, maybe Green Lanterns is coming soon. I would really like to see this series come back out again. I think it's great, and it's a great development of both characters, and it's made me a fan of both. I think pairing Simon and Jessica together was a great idea, and it got a good run. And so I'm hoping that, with all the Green Lantern Omnis we do get, this is going to be one of them in the future. It's just nice. When it comes to comics, it is nice to have the big, explosive, serialized battle scenes. And then sometimes it's fun just to watch your heroes go trick-or-treating. It's great. I love it. So I hope that Green Lanterns will have its shot at the sunlight once again. So Blue Beetle has no omnibuses as a time of recording, and what better one to start with the Jaime Reyes run from the 2000s, probably, arguably, the best Blue Beetle comic run of all time. Keith Giffen started this series, and it is so excellent. It breaks a lot of the superhero tropes. It goes into kind of making Jaime a distinctive character. There's details that fit like the culture and the world that he lives in. It's got your crazy space battles. It's got your down-to-earth conflicts. It's just an excellent series from beginning to end. I absolutely love it. And I love that DC gave us a nice collection of thick paperbacks recently, because across 3 volumes we got the entire series, which was a first. We never really had the entire thing in a nice, easily collected format, because the trade paperbacks left some stuff out. So these new trade paperbacks were a very, very nice gift to have. Now, that being said, why Omnibus? It has gotten a recent reprint. Well, because I think Blue Beetle deserves an Omnibus, and I think if it's going to be any Blue Beetle comic, this is the one to pick. Plus, it's not that long of a series. The entire thing could be put into 1 volume, maybe even toss in some of the Teen Titans issues he was in as like some bonuses. It'd be pretty great. I'm pretty happy with the paperbacks, if that's the only format we ever get, but I would like to see something else, something better, something grander, like a proper omnibus for Blue Beetle. My number 5 pick, Cassandra Cain Batgirl. How does this not already have an omnibus or a line of compendiums? It's a very, very popular character who's holding up her own current ongoing book. Cassandra Cain's Batgirl series is so good. It's really one of the best. And the shame is that DC released volume 1, 2, and 3 of thick paperbacks, didn't continue them because DC wasn't good at continuing back in those days. They started kind of fresh with the DC Finest collection, which is inside the 3 paperbacks. So anybody that's got the 3 paperbacks is like, okay, that's good, and it's been selling really well. That's one that's been restocked a lot. But we haven't seen a second Finest collection. We haven't seen a compendium, or what I'm hoping for, an omnibus. For a lot of people, this is the best Batgirl run that's ever been done, and I think it deserves the omnibus treatment. It's also never been properly fully collected. It has had, because of the 2000s comics, that they didn't get their full trade paperback runs, and they didn't circle back around to them later, there's a lot of gaps there. And so we don't have proper collections of the Cassandra Cain series from the beginning to the end of it, and I think the omnibus format would be the way to do it. It'd probably be 3 or 4 omnis, because it was quite a long running run. I think it's the longest running Batgirl comic of all time. So I would love to see it in that format. I also think because of the wonderful artwork that is done in this series, it would be great to see it in an oversized format, not just in the paperback form. I think it would be a nice upgrade, but it would also just be really great to get more Cassandra Cain Batgirl collected a little bit quicker in omnibus, and then we could go and continue the DC Finest line and fill that out, because I think those should be the 2 formats that this series should be in. Omnibus and DC Finest. That would be ideal for me. My number 4 pick, Steel. Now, Steel as a character is wonderful. I love John Henry Irons. He is one of my favorite Superman characters. He came up during the reign of Superman era, representing the Man of Steel part of the Superman moniker. But he gets to the heart of what Superman is. Not the powers, but the person. And so I love the character of Steel. Now, this collection of Steel here is just like a little taste of the overall experience for the character. Because the thing with Steel is that he was popular coming out of Reign of Superman, and so Steel did have continuing adventures. He had his own ongoing series that lasted, I think, about 50 issues. There is enough to make an omnibus of Steel without even having to dip into double dipping with other series like, Justice League, or in things like, Superman, Man of Steel and stuff like that. Now, they could do another omnibus. It's the modern stuff, but the 90s stuff could totally fit in its own omni, and then you can go through it. This collection here is kind of a nice guide as to what they can work with for Steel. Like, he's got a lot of options, but I would love to see his original 90s run be brought in and put into an omnibus. I think it would make a great standalone omnibus. Now, there is a caveat here, which is that if they want to include these in the Triangle Era omnibus, then okay, well, we don't need to have a separate omnibus for it. But I don't know if they're going to do that because Steel was not part of the Triangle branding. Same with other spin-off titles like Superboy. They were their kind of own thing. They weren't really part of the Triangle branding because that was mostly for the 4 Superman titles, the 4 then 5 Superman titles. So I don't think the Triangle Era Omnibus is going to include every issue with Steel. It'll probably include ones where he crosses over with Superman. So I think as a nice companion to the Triangle Years omnibuses, I would love to see a Steel omnibus of his entire original series included. Maybe toss in his debut issue from Reign of the Supermen. But I would love to see that series collected. It's never been reprinted in full before. It's available digitally, but not physical, and I would buy it in a heartbeat. I love the character, and I think a lot of people would revisit that run if it was in a new print edition, and I hope that's the case. Now, if they did also do a Steel Compendium that does the same exact thing, I would be happy with that as well. I'm not super picky, but I think that Steel deserves a big collection of his 90s series as soon as possible, honestly. Number 3, Paul Levitt's Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes / the Legion of Superheroes. Paul Levitz, for many, is the best writer on Legion of Superheroes, and honestly, for me, it's probably my absolute favorite of the entire Legion catalog. There's been so many creatives on Legion, and it's not to discredit anybody, but Paul Levitz just had it figured out. He knew how to balance a team of characters like basically no one else could. And so his stuff starts sort of coming out of the Silver Age into the Bronze Age is when the Paul Levitz era starts, and then it goes through this whole process of kind of evolving the series before getting to the Great Darkness saga, which is kind of the most influential Legion storyline I think that's ever been done. Now, the thing is, as you see, we do have collections of this, right? These 4 hardcovers that came out were very nice to have. So we've got Superboy and Legion of Superheroes, Superboy and Legion of Superheroes Volume 1 and 2. Then we got Legion of Superheroes Before the Darkness 1 and 2, because this is basically everything from, you know, where this begins up to where the Great Darkness saga starts. And these 4 hardcovers are very nice, and they came out a while enough ago that they've been out of print, but also they do have the caveat of they're made to go with the Legion Archive editions, because I think it even says here on the back that, yeah, includes continuing directly from Legion of Superheroes Archives. Archives was DC's old format of collecting Golden and Silver Age comics in these premium hardcovers, which were nice in their standard size. And so they continued from where the Archives left off to right here. And so there's a bit of a gap between like the Silver Age Omnibus 3 for Legion and where this volume begins. So I think the Paul Levitz Omnibus, I would love to have it continue from Silver Age Legion 3, and then it could go for 2 volumes probably from there, which is, you know, let's just assume like here, because there's like 3 archive volumes, like from here to here, and then we would have it go straight into Great Darkness Saga. Now, Great Darkness Saga doesn't need to be part of the omnibus because it already is a deluxe edition, and because DC reprinted this just last year, I don't see them putting it into an omnibus. I think they'd love to keep it separate. And the same thing for The Curse, which was also given a deluxe edition that was just reprinted. So I don't see these needing to come out. Now, these could have been combined together because The Curse builds off the Great Darkness saga. But I can also see that like the Paul Levitz Legion run Omnis from before Great Darkness saga could just be called Before the Darkness Omnibus 1 and 2. And then you'd have that taking you from the Silver Age all the way up to Great Darkness saga. The Curse covers everything after that before the title's rebooted as the 1980s Legion of Superheroes. I would love to see this era properly collected. These are fine as is. It's just the stuff before we need a more complete collection. It'd be nice if it matched the deluxe editions. Then they can start, you know, harvesting those out and all that restoration work and everything done, harvest it out to the DC Finest line and expand that out, because the volume we got is such a mixed bag. I wish they would have started with the Levitz run. Now, if you're going to ask me, though, which Legion Omnibus do I want the most, it's the 80s run, the 1984 run that runs from the end of The Curse all the way before 5 years later, because that era has had a couple scattered trade paperbacks, but has never been fully collected, and it's a gap in my collection. This is less of a gap for this not being an omnibus, because I have these hardcovers and I have a bunch of singles, but I So that's my personal pick. But I think that if you want people to read Legion, I think putting the Mark Waid run out in an omnibus is a great idea. That should hit DC Finest, and I think it'd do great. And then I think the Paul Levitz run needs to be the next one, because it's such an iconic run. And I think people only know the Great Darkness Saga, some know the Curse, but not a lot know how great the stories are before then. And it'd be really nice to have it all in a nice, consistent format. My number 2 pick, Hawkman by Robert Venditti and Brian Hitch. This is my favorite Hawkman run of all time. I really love the Hawkman character, and so many runs get very muddled as to trying to figure out how do we navigate him having all these past lives. And so Jeff Johns did a version of it, which I think is good, and that's got an omnibus because it's Jeff Johns. He's pretty well known. What Robert Venditti decided to do with this run in particular, I thought was brilliant. He basically made Carter Hall Indiana Jones. And instead of just being like, an archaeologist, Indiana Jones type, like they gave him the brown leather jacket and everything, he's going on adventures, he's looking for artifacts from his past lives, trying to piece together his own history. That is a cool premise, and it works so effectively, because instead of his past lives and his reincarnations as being like a plot device, it is actually something that it's like, okay, I'm learning about this. Now the audience can learn about it too. Like the reader learns alongside him, and so it's not confusing, it's not disorienting, and he gets to travel to all these different places and, fight different villains and stuff. And one of the things I like about it too is, unlike the Jeff Johns run, which has him the Jeff Johns run has Carter basically stalking Kendra at some points, because he's like, oh, you're the reincarnation of my love, we should be together, and then she has to kind of tell him to step off. We don't have any of that creepiness here, because I hate when they do that. There's no reason for it to be creepy. You should be understanding of multiple lives means not every time is it going to be perfect. And so I like that this run, kind of addresses that, in the sense that he's not pursuing her. She's off doing things with the Justice League, and she comes in sometimes, and then Shayera Hall comes in, because it's, that's slightly confusing, but that's, hot girl stuff. But, he's still partnering up with the Atom, so it's got a bit of a classic throwback vibe. But it also is doing something new, which is this kind of like he's exploring his past lives like it's history. And the ending of this book was honestly so perfect that I kind of felt like I did not need to see the character again. I mean, he's come back, obviously, because, he's a good, marketable character. But, it was such a perfect ending to this run that I cannot recommend it enough. And I really want DC to put it into an omnibus. An omnibus, a compendium, do an omnibus first, then do a compendium. And if you're somebody that's wanted to enjoy Hawkman but just can't get over like the backstory, he just finds his history to be confusing, this is the book to read. This is the one to check out, because the backstory and the reincarnation cycle and all of his past lives are used as a setup for a story. It's the spine of the story. It's not an anchor weighing it down and dragging it to the bottom, because we always got to keep addressing this all the time. It only comes up when the story needs it to. And I think that's perfect. And I think that this book just nailed what makes Hawkman great. And it's a shame that we haven't gotten a Hawkman ongoing since. But this was so good, it's kind of hard to go, let's do another one. Because really, what can you do when you've made basically the best run ever on the character? I really feel strongly about this. And I really want DC to reprint it in a modern form so that more people can read it, because I think a lot of people missed it when it came out. It's kind of in that period of DC post like Dark Knight's Metal, where everybody was just kind of lost and not sure what DC was doing, and a lot of people missed this book, and it's so good. I highly recommend it. All right, so my number 1 pick isn't going to be Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman. I feel like anything Batman is going to get an omnibus or a deluxe edition eventually, right? Like at some point in life. Some point, everything for his is going to get collected. Most of the Superman stuff, pretty much all the Wonder Woman's going to get there eventually, right? I want to talk about a character that absolutely deserves more, and I will show up every time, day one. Jonah Hex. Specifically, Jonah Hex by Jimmy Palmiotti and Justin Gray. So the reason why this is number 1 out of all of it is that because outside of a reprint of the first trade paperback coming later this year, this original run, prior to the New 52, has not been recollected since it first came out. There are trade paperback editions collecting the entire thing, but that's it. There are no thick trades, there are no compendiums, there are no omnibuses. There is no other way to read this comic physically besides tracking down trades that are coming up to being 20 years old. This book needs a reprint, especially because we got the All-Star Western Jonah Hex Omnibus of the New 52 run. That was a great collection. It sort of feels like a volume 3 because there was 70 issues of Palmiotti and Gray Jonah Hex prior to this. This is a continuation. It's a great jumping on point because it takes place in Gotham and connects to, DC history a little bit closer, but this book that precedes it needs to be done as well. I think it'd be the greatest 3-volume run of any omnibus series because it's so good, and it's such a bummer that I'm sitting here after all my years of collecting comics. I've got 2 trade paperbacks, and this is a case of I've bought whenever I see a Jonah Hex trade paperback, I will pick it up, but these are the only 2 I got. I'm looking for that reprint of the first trade just so I got at least 3 of the volumes. It was a 70-issue run plus bonuses. It needs to be in an omnibus to match that, and then it needs to be available in a compendium for a cheaper price so that more people can read it. It is so good, and I cannot emphasize that enough. This is the book that needs an omnibus over everything else because it's too good of a comic to be completely inaccessible in a physical form in anything better than small trade paperbacks from 20 years ago. In all the modern collections we've gotten, we need a bigger collection and a brighter, newer collection for Jonah Hex. And I hope DC does it because it's for the sake of the history of the company at this point. I really want this comic in omnibus form. And then I want it to be in a paperback format for those that don't buy omnibuses. Because I think everybody should read this. Palmiotti and Gray's Jonah Hex, it's like an essential reading. And it's so hard to do unless you have a DC Universe Infinite subscription. So those are my picks of what I think should be made to omnibuses or compendiums. Like I said, flexible, but these are books that I think deserve bigger and better collections because I love them all. That's the main reason, but also I have reasons also. Some of these, like there's some other books I love that I'm just like, yeah, they're fine as is, but these are the ones I'm like, I want more people to read these. Maybe that's kind of also the list to check out too, is like, here's some books to check out. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the notification bell if you haven't already. Leave a comment with your list down below, compare and contrast mine. That would be kind of fun. Also, be sure to join our Discord server in the link below if you want to continue the conversation. You can join as a channel member, and there's perks available like early access to videos and member-exclusive shoutouts. So let's give some special shoutouts to our channel members. So shout out to these channel member captain tiers: Simple OS, Damien Nguyen, Adam Osari, Adonis, Alex Wario 94 Ashbourne, Grateful Dead 7836, Q Rodriguez, Common Pikachu, Salvatore, Jamie's World, Ellen Retro, Swineass Teramo, KRSSPR 103, Brian Woodruff, and these new commander tier members, Tyler Hill, Sky Ganfor, and Treat Yourself. Thank you to these channel members and viewers alike for supporting this channel. If you so wish, I'm on social media on Blue Sky and Letterboxd at Soundout12. You can also find my wonderful graphic designer on social media and Discord at DarkClaw643, and you can find Hero Club at hero-club.com for comic reviews and more. And until next time, this is Soundout saying, here's to these books getting new editions in the future.